Welcome to the Walking Dread podcast. I'm Adrian, and if you're anything like me, you love those addictive horror stories, the ones that really get under your skin, those nightmares and terrifying tales, and even ancient curses that we'll kind of be delving into here, and all delivered in a fun, spooky way with, really good storytelling to keep things interesting. So if you're into exploring the darker side of things, make sure you rate and follow for more.
Hi, I'm Julia. I'm here to, unpack the folklore and the fear behind all these scary stories.
And today we're diving into a really creepy piece called Lullaby of Ruin. This is one you actually sent my way. And it's this intense narrative from a collection of, I think they're like pasted tats or something. But anyway, it's about this group of urban explorers who went looking for something in this abandoned skyscraper and ended up finding, well, something else entirely.
Yeah, it wasn't just dust and shadows in that skyscraper.
Not at all.
No.
So our mission today is to kind of get to the heart of Lullaby of Ruin. You want to understand what made these explorers go into that building in the first place, what exactly they found in there, and the logic, or maybe the illogic, behind their decisions when they came face to face with something unbelievable. And then, of course, we have to talk about the terrifying situation they ended up in because of those decisions.
Sounds good to me.
All right, so let's start at the beginning. What was it that drew these explorers to this forgotten skyscraper in the first place? What were they hoping to find? Like, why go there?
Well, it's interesting because there are a couple of motivations going on at the same time. The story mentions rumors, and not really about supernatural stuff at first, but rumors of something valuable being hidden away in this untouched place. So there's that, that basic human desire for discovery, that treasure hunting instinct.
So like they're thinking maybe there's some lost treasure or something valuable just waiting to be found.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And then there's Rick, right, one of the explorers. He's the one who dismisses the idea of harpies right off the bat. He's way more focused on maybe finding actual loot, or if not that, then something really unique they can film for their urban exploration channels, to go viral.
Right. It's like that perfect mix of potential riches and online fame. That's what really pushes them through the entrance, I think.
Totally. And then, boom, the atmosphere changes the second they get inside. Rick's probably expecting, like, the usual stuff you find in abandoned places, that smell of decay, wind whistling through broken windows, that kind of thing. But instead, they're met with this strange, almost musical sound echoing through the empty lobby. And right away, this isn't just another rundown building. There's something else going on.
Absolutely. It's like this eerie but kind of captivating melody that draws them deeper into the building, and then it gets louder, and it turns into these harsh, guttural squawks. But the source of the sounds is totally unexpected. When their flashlights hit it, what they see is not what they were expecting at all. These creatures, feathered, hunched over, with clawed feet.
Yeah, and then there's the description of their faces. Disturbing, right? This weird mix of feminine features, but with these sharp, hooked beaks. And their eyes, it's like they're just radiating hunger, like some primal urge.
It's scary, but the really interesting part is the creature's initial reaction. They don't attack right away. They hiss like a warning, which makes sense. But then as they're hit with more light, they actually cower, and their strange song becomes these frightened whimpers. It's almost like they're more scared of the explorers.
Yeah, and that vulnerability, that fear they show is what shapes everything the explorers do next. It gives them a sense of power, this idea that they have the upper hand.
Exactly. And then you have that turning point in the story, that moment where Jess, who is considered the brains of the group, has this flash of brilliance. And I think this is one of the creepiest books of the story.
Oh yeah, her idea to play birdsong backward, that's where things take a really dark turn.
Mm-hmm.
But why birdsong, and why play it backward?
Well, you have to think about how different species communicate and how they perceive sound. A lot of times unusual sounds, like reversed sounds, trigger strong reactions, often negative ones. Like, think about how easily a sudden loud noise can scare or disorient an animal. Jess's idea with the reversed birdsong seems to mess with the creature's hearing, creating something so unnatural and unsettling that it basically disorients them.
And it works instantly, right? The beautiful melody they heard before becomes this horrible, distorted mess when played backward from Jess's phone. It's described as this cacophony, like nails on a chalkboard. You almost feel bad for the creatures listening to it.
But here's the thing. They're not reacting in pain. Not really. They're confused, completely disoriented. They start stumbling around, trying desperately to get away from the sound. And that's the moment where human ingenuity seems to give them total control. They've found a weapon, not to hurt these beings physically, but to disable them with sound.
And they use that advantage, right?
Yeah.
They decide to loot the Harpies' nest, And this isn't the typical urban exploration hall, no old office supplies or anything like that. This is the nest of monsters, so who knows what they'll find.
Yeah, the stuff they find is pretty telling. There are trinkets, which suggests a hoarding instinct, like, magpies or crows. And then there are scraps of food, so you get a sense of how they've been surviving.
Stealing to survive.
Exactly. But the most important discovery are the eggs. They're large, speckled, and warm, which is strange considering the creatures themselves are cold-blooded. But these eggs are the key to their survival as a species, right?
So they find these eggs, and Jess, always the pragmatic one, makes a decision that has huge consequences. She decides to leave the eggs.
Right. Her reasoning is all about maintaining control. She thinks by leaving the eggs, they can use fear to keep the creatures in check. It's a cold, calculated decision based on the belief that fear is the most powerful and long-lasting form of control. But the moment they decide to do that, their roles change completely. They're not explorers anymore. They've become the wardens of this other species.
It's like they become responsible, in a way, for the fate of these creatures.
Exactly. And it's not a responsibility they take lightly.
Definitely not. And then the story jumps ahead a few months, right?
Uh-huh.
And the skyscraper, it's not just a cool discovery anymore. It's become a prison, both for the Harpies and for the explorers themselves.
It is. They're trapped by their own actions. The creatures are still there, terrified by the constant barrage of reversed birdsong.
It's wild how things change. Like Rick, remember he was skeptical at first, driven by treasure or fame? Now he's become this, I don't know, twisted zookeeper. He's the one keeping this crazy system going, playing those recordings, confining the Harpies to the upper floors.
It's a disturbing routine. They've established a sense of normalcy in this bizarre, frightening situation. And that normalcy is all based on fear and control.
And then there's that detail about the hatchlings. The fact that Rick sees them emerge from the eggs, these baby harpies with their sharp little beaks and intelligent eyes. It's a reminder that the situation isn't static, that the cycle continues.
And with each new generation, the potential for things to go wrong increases exponentially. I mean, think about it. The humans assume they're in control because they're the ones playing the recordings, keeping those old speakers running. They've settled into this routine.
But then there's that detail, that one chilling detail that shatters that sense of security. One harpy is always watching from the shadows. And it's not just watching, it's observing, its eyes narrowed, taking it all in.
Exactly. This isn't just a scared animal reacting on instinct. This harpy is studying them, figuring out where the sound comes from, how it works. It's learning the rules of its confinement. And that is terrifying.
Right. Because what happens when it figures it out? What happens when it, or maybe others, figure out how to shut off those recordings, how to escape their sonic prison? Because when that happens, and it feels like it's only a matter of time, the power dynamic shifts completely. And the explorers, well, they become the prey. Their own cleverness will be their downfall.
What really gets me about this story is how the type of horror changes. At first, it's the shock of encountering these creatures, but then it becomes this insidious dread, this slow, creeping realization that they're in over their heads. They might have outsmarted the harpies at first, but in doing so, they created a much bigger, much more dangerous problem for themselves.
And it all comes back to those themes of unintended consequences. These explorers, they went in wanting something for themselves, the excitement of the unknown, maybe some profit, internet fame. They weren't thinking about the ethics of encountering and then controlling another species.
It's like they forgot that actions have consequences, especially actions driven by self-interest. It's a reminder that even the most brilliant solutions, if they ignore ethical considerations, can lead to terrible things. Plus, there's that theme of false security, that feeling of safety they get from their routine. But it's an illusion, and the longer it goes on, the more dangerous the situation becomes.
It's ironic. These urban explorers went into the skyscraper as conquerors. Then they become survivors by using their ingenuity to subdue the harpies. But now they're prisoners in their own twisted zoo, completely reliant on this system of fear to keep themselves safe. And it's a system that could collapse at any moment.
Right. And the story ends on this chilling note. The harpies are waiting, learning. Their eyes, as the story describes it, are gleaming with understanding. The humans are marching toward a confrontation they don't even see coming. And that moment of triumph they had, it was just delaying the inevitable.
Lullaby of Ruin is a story that stays with you. It makes you think about the choices we make and the consequences that follow, even if we don't see them coming. It makes you wonder what you would do in a situation like that. What lengths would you go to protect yourself? Where would you draw the line?
I think the story also makes us think about intelligence and adaptation. We tend to think we're at the top of the food chain because of our brains, but what if we're wrong? What if we underestimate the ability of other species to learn and adapt, even species that seem less intelligent? What if those species find ways to overcome the obstacles we put in their path? It's a chilling thought.
It is. So, folks, listen, be careful out there. Don't underestimate the things that go bump in the night. And remember, sometimes the things that seem harmless can be the most dangerous. Thank you for joining us on the Walking Dread podcast for another journey into the unsettling. If you enjoyed this exploration, and we know you did, make sure to rate and follow for more episodes. Until next time, sleep well, if you can.